So let's talk about a potential new team for Lamar Jackson. Yes, that is Lamar Jackson trade destinations as we walk in to the 2023 NFL offseason. Everything's looking and sounding good, bro. That's always my boy right there. That's always my dude right there. The beginning sometimes sound a little fuzzy when we get into the show. And I'm actually running a new software with the mic right now. Also want to do this just to make sure I'm not blurry. There's just sometimes the video accent, man. You gotta play the game, just like in the NFL, you just got to do it. But all right, let's get into it. So the very first trade destination for me, first I want to say there wasn't really a whole lot of like extravagant amount of teams that I felt like truly made sense. Whether it was cap space, whether it was the roster, whether it just was how the team was at the time, the situation that they're in. Lamar Jackson is definitely enough of a playmaker and enough of a person to take you over the top. I feel like he is going to come back healthy. We've seen what he's been able to do. He's dealt with a lot of injuries on the team, and he just hasn't dealt with a whole lot of stability with the roster in the last couple of years, including himself. So there's a lot of questions around it, but I still firmly believe Lamar Jackson could take a team to the Super Bowl and win it. He just has to be in the right situation. I've only got 4 teams here that I genuinely believe Lamar Jackson would be a true addition to, and it's not that, year 1, year 2, immediately they're running to the Super Bowl. But I could say in year 1 or year 2, we're talking about a title game and maybe getting a Super Bowl appearance, not a win. But nonetheless, Lamar Jackson would be a good addition here. I'm actually going to pop these headphones out because I did not want them here. So give me a second. Let me know if everything still sounds good, though. I can still read y'all's chats. I'm always tired of messing with them. I see it every time I'm editing. I'm like, geez, I'm literally always touching those headphones. So first team here is going to be the Washington Commanders. I know that might be a shock, but just hear me out. And all these teams that are on here, again, it's only 4. First one is going to be the Washington Commanders, and they have a defense. We know the defense they have. You look over the 2 of the last 3 years in Washington that they've had a defense that they're ranking. I don't know the exact numbers. I know we talked about them on the last show, but I know they're top 10, top 12 in yards and points. So that's very beneficial. Lamar Jackson is used to having a great defense, and all 4 of these teams that we're going to get to here do have a great defense, and it's going to help Lamar Jackson take some of that pressure off him. We've seen it with quarterbacks, run game, defense. Makes it easier for everybody, excuse me, especially the quarterback. You've got Terry McLaurin, of course, who's been a monster ever since he's come into the league. That's a target for Lamar Jackson. You've also got Jahan Dotson, who they just picked up in the draft as well. That would be another target for him. You've got, and I think it's Antonio Gibson that's in the backfield, if I'm not mistaken. He's clearly a two-way type of guy, kind of like a CMC, Alvin Kamara light, can really play in the run game, but also the passing game as well. And I know what's going to really hold a lot of people off of that, and even me as well, is Lamar Jackson going to a team that's or a franchise that's not necessarily ran. We're actually going to get into it a little later in the show about how there's going to be some incoming bids more than likely finally, excuse me, in this NFL offseason to where it's going to be looking like the Washington Commanders can be sold. So, going over to that instability, kind of wondering if that would be good for him. Just Baltimore is very well ran. You don't know if that would be like a good culture fit per se. But I do feel like there is maybe some turnaround coming. And I know I said in the last video, there's really only a couple of good takeaways, and it's really that defense. And they have pieces on the roster, but they don't have the quarterback. There's really not any consistency, especially with the offense in an offensive league. So adding Lamar would definitely help. Man. Excuse me. All right. Number 2 team, great fit for any quarterback in the league. We know this. It is the San Francisco 49ers, and this is a super loaded roster. We know about Deebo Samuel. We know about Brandon Ayuk. We know about Christian McCaffrey. We know about the great offensive line that's over there. We also know about the literal best defense in the NFL. Excuse me, guys. Damn. We know about the best defense in the NFL that was ran by Robert Saleh at one time, now was then ran by DeMeco Ryans, who both of those guys going on to be head coaches. So clearly they know how to scout those types of people. They're going to be bringing in, I know, another good defensive coordinator. We've seen the Niners be defensively consistent. Again, something else normal for Lamar Jackson. 2 more targets in Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. I didn't even mention George Kittle, which is crazy. The more you look into this roster, again, we know San Francisco is a very, very great landing spot for any quarterback, and Lamar Jackson, I believe, would be able to turn it up here. And the reason, again, there's only 4 of these teams is like you feel like you could plug and play Lamar into anything, but realistically, his game is so unique and so special to where you can't ask him to throw like I feel like an average NFL quarterback of maybe, I don't know, 28 to 35 times a game. Like he can do that, but it might not be the greatest showing. Not saying he's going to play bad, but his strengths are clearly in the athleticism, in the deception, when you're running out of the wildcat, when you're running the options, when you've got the full backfields. So I feel like these teams, compared to the rosters, what we've seen out of them, and still having some targets for Lamar Jackson to throw to, the targets are big enough in the secondary to where if Lamar does only get to or have to throw maybe 18 to 22, 25 times a game, those secondary players, or excuse me, those wide receivers are so impactful for him that they're going to make plays. Walking right into the next team, the Dolphins, of course. The defense has started to come around for them, thankfully. Mike McDaniel looks to be solid in the head coaching job. That culture is starting to ramp up, and I know some people out there might not really agree with it because of the Tua situation, but we don't really know what's going to happen with Tua. I know Tua is a great story. I love Tua in college. I was rooting for him hard out of the draft, but I've just seen him in this league. He seems too small. He doesn't throw the greatest football. Yes, he was looking decent, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but against inferior teams. When the competition is there, it's not there for Tua on the field. Getting embarrassed in the national championship, not to kind of throw it way back or go left field, but we've seen Tua crumble in some big games. And Lamar Jackson did crumble in a big playoff game, but he's also won 74% of his games as a starter. And you can't deny bringing that type of talent in Lamar, that explosiveness in Lamar to the Dolphins with everything that they have. Mike Gesicki as well. They've got a good backfield, in terms of running back. So Lamar, I believe, also would be a good trade as well. Sounds exactly the same to me. Well, you know what, bro? It is what it is. Just wanted to check back on the chat there. Appreciate it, though, Darby. Like I said, man, you're always looking out for me. And then the last team here that I'm going to say Lamar Jackson could potentially have a landing spot with is going to be the New York Jets. And I know I've talked about Derek Carr going there. I know I've talked about Aaron Rodgers going there. And I really never would have thought, not really at any point in podcasting, but just talking about sports in the near future, that the New York Jets would really be an ideal spot for people to go to. We know there's Garrett Wilson. We know there's Breece Hall. The defense seriously came around last year. Robert Saleh clearly doing his thing as a head coach. We would like to see more offensive trends out of him, but there's no question that they have those pieces on the offense to help with that explosion, to help complement Lamar Jackson. And again, I do believe there is a situation to where Lamar Jackson, as much as I've criticized him for not being able to throw the football or not being able to super air it out, when you can build a body, like perfect example, Brock Purdy, clearly Lamar Jackson is more talented than Brock Purdy, but you put Brock Purdy in a special situation with the Niners where he only has to do certain things and he does those small things well, but Lamar Jackson has a much bigger skill set, so you can ask more of him, but still not have to have it to where he's got to throw the ball 30, 35, 40 times a game. And I'm not saying that's ever been an aspect of Lamar's game, but again, the Commanders, the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Jets, all of these teams are defensively pretty solid. All of these teams have weapons on the offensive side of the ball, really have playmakers on both sides of the football. And for the most part, are trending upwards. Like I said, it's not too sexy with the Commanders or the Jets, but there is some upward tick here. So again, Lamar Jackson potentially going to these spots, I think would be solid. I don't want to see it happen. I would love to see Lamar be able to work it out in Baltimore. I love Lamar Jackson. I really do. I'd love to get his jersey one day. I'm kind of skeptical about the whole jersey thing, but we'll get into that another time. But those, yes, would be the trade destinations for Lamar Jackson for me.